Welcome to Yin for the Spine. I've created this practice because over the last couple of days I woke up with an excruciating backache, completely my fault. I knew that I'd been sitting at my computer in the wrong position for quite some hours and my back decided to complain about it. So we've all been there with this severe lower back issue and we're all out of sync. So I decided to do yoga to the rescue, and this is a practice I did, and I'm now 2 practices later after these yin sequences, all back to normal, all back in sync. So do join me. You will need a block. If you have a yoga block, you're very lucky. If you don't have a yoga block and you have really severe back issues, then maybe just a rolled up towel or a rolled up blanket will be sufficient for you today. Each of the postures are going to be held for 3 minutes. And as it's a spine focused yin practice, I really would like you to take your focus to the spine and see how you're feeling. We don't want to be in pain. We want to know that we're in the posture, and there will be some uncomfortable sensations and there'll be some pleasurable sensations. So let's get started. So we're going to lay on our backs. And we're going to keep our feet flat onto the mat to begin with. And then we're just going to settle the shoulders down. And with the feet flat on the mat, this should feel quite nice and comfortable to the spine. And just bring your awareness to the belly, so hands on the belly. And notice your inhales and your exhales. Belly rising, belly falling. As we inhale, the belly rises. And as we exhale, the belly falls. And just calming everything down in preparation for our practice. Now bring your awareness to your spine and become the observer of any pain that you may be in, or just become the observer of the spine itself. How's it feeling today? We're often in forward bends, hunched over our laptops. We're often keeping that forward bend throughout the day. So we're going to just start the practice with a very light back bend, and you will make your choices whether you use your rolled up blanket or your yoga brick. If you don't have a yoga brick, you can possibly use something like a hard back book. So I'm going to take the brick or the blanket. I'm going to use the brick. So coming back into that feet flat onto the mat, I'm going to lift up my hips. I'm going to take this brick right at the base. So where your buttocks finish, you'll find a flat bone right at that base where you can rest your buttocks on this brick. The brick should not be placed in your inner back, so don't take it further up. So just feel, it should feel comfortable. And we can stay in this position for the entire 3 minutes. If even this is a little bit too uncomfortable, perhaps change it for that blanket or just lay down again. Now for those who have no back issues, you may want to take this practice a lot deeper, and that's absolutely wonderful. So I've popped the timer on for a 3-minute hold. And if you want to take a little bit deeper, perhaps take your arms up over your shoulders and feel the nice stretch that's happening in the belly. Now of course, if your hands don't land on the mat behind you, you can always take your arms a little bit wider or have angel arms and just have this posture. Or you can have a cushion or a bolster underneath the hands and rest here. So lots of different options. Now again, bring your awareness to the spine. You'll find that you have a light back bend here. And back bends are very healthy for anybody with back issues. Often we're quite fearful of them and quite cautious, and you should be as well. But they are healthy for your spine. this extension of the spine, is quite healthy, as long as it arrives with no pain, no tingling, no burning, nothing unnatural happening. You're just aware that you're in the posture and slightly out of your comfort zone. Now, if you want to go a little bit deeper, then you can try stretching the legs long. And now you'll feel that stretch right along the front of the body, really opening up the connective tissue along the front of the body, and the back bend will be more pronounced. But if it feels a little bit challenging, just bring the feet back onto the mat and stay in that posture. We're just observing, listening to our bodies, and checking out how it's feeling. And we know that in our yin practice we have many silences, so that we really can get in touch with the sensations that are being created, or our breath, and take it to a meditative practice. Just a couple more breaths. And then bring your feet flat onto the mat if you have long legs. Settle here. And then if you have long arms, bring them down by the side of the body. Settle here. And then we'll lift up the hips to remove the brick or the blanket. And we'll just either have the feet flat onto the mat and rest here, or take the legs long. Turn the palms to the ceiling and rest here in Shavasana. And again, bringing our awareness to the spine. So different sensations now. Maybe a little sensation of relief after coming out of that back bend. And from here we're going to take another back bend. So we're going to bring the feet flat to the mat and softly roll over. We're going to lay on our tummies this time. So coming onto your tummy, now have your bolsters or your cushions in front of you, and stretch the legs out behind you, and then take your bolster underneath your arms and rest here. So the cushion or the bolster is just underneath your armpits, and you're just resting here. So again, it's a 3-minute hold. If this is still too intense for your spine, take away any props and just have your hands underneath your forehead and settle here. And if you wanted to go deeper in this 3-minute hold, then we would take away the props and come into a posture called Sphinx. So the elbows are right underneath your shoulders. and we're in a deeper posture. So we can experiment here as well. We can have the legs together and see how that feels. Or we can take the legs apart and see how that feels. And which one does the spine prefer? And again, if it's all a bit too much in Sphinx, you can return back to draped over your bolster or your cushions, or hands underneath the forehead, and settle here. So lots and lots of different options for lots and lots of different spines. You're about halfway through your 3-minute hold. So whether you're draped over your cushions or your bolsters, or whether you're in Sphinx, we can intensify the back bend if we want to. We can just draw the heels towards the buttocks, and we find that we have a deeper back bend. And if that's all a little bit too much, then just draw those feet back down towards the earth again. So we want to be just outside of our comfort zone, just aware that something's happening. Not too strong, not too weak, just about right. We know we're in the posture, we can feel something happening. Nice, easy breathing. And perhaps notice how these sensations that we're having are changing. Are they becoming less challenging or more challenging? Just observe. And we've completed our 3 minutes. So legs down if they're up, and we lay down and we settle here. Now for those with back issues, I'd like you just to stay here for a while. For those who have no back issues, you may want to take a deeper back bend, maybe for a minute. We'll take the hands either side of our mats. We'll point the fingers away and we'll rise up into into seal posture. So we're having a nice stretch in the belly now. Remember the stretch in the belly we had laying on our back. We found it again in a deeper back bend. So we're not staying here for long, and if it's all a bit too much, you can take your hands a little bit closer together and move them a little bit further away if you want to, and this will decrease that back bend. So we know that we stay in stillness, we find what we call our edge, and we stay in stillness. Now my pubic bone is sat on the mat, it's not lifting up. So I can feel the pressure of my pubic bone on the mat. My arms are strong, so it's a bit of a yang. And we just breathe. And remember, serious back issues, hands under forehead, or you can always pop that bolster underneath and have just more of the previous back bend. So a couple more breaths. If you're in seal posture, it's quite strong. It's really compressing those lumbar discs. It's where we get most of our back issues, right in that lower back. And it's often due to poor posture, as mine was, or too much aggravation of the spine by doing something too repetitive, like Ashtanga or something. If you're doing it too repetitive and not observing how the body is feeling, then yes, we could have back ache. And we're slowly going to come all the way back down. We're going to join those guys who've had hands underneath the forehead. We're going to settle here. I'm now going to turn my gaze to the right, and I'm going to draw that right leg and knee up along the mat. And this is decompression now, so it should feel quite nice after that back bend. And then I'll slide that leg back, turn my gaze the opposite way, and bring that knee up, sliding along the mat. So a little bit of flexion in the hip. And then slowly we'll come back. Simply roll over now onto your backs again. So just roll over onto your backs. Feet flat onto the mat. And we settle here. And again, we observe different sensations. There are two options for the next posture. The first option would be to bring the soles of your feet together, open up the knees, and if you have cushions, you can pop them underneath the knees to support the muscles. We know in yin all our muscles are relaxed and we're working into the joints. Just a couple of minutes in this position, or if you want to go a little bit deeper, bring the knees together, draw the knees over the chest, and we move into happy baby. So either take the arms behind the knees, separate the knees, and draw the knees to the armpits. Maybe have hold of the ankles, the feet are facing to the ceiling if you have hold of the ankles, and drawing down, and maybe even the outer edges of the feet. Now the tailbone is allowed to lift, so we're going into flexion of the spine, so the tailbone is allowed to lift. I want you to think about softening that back now, really working into the spine, nice and easy. And a couple more breaths. And if you're in happy baby, options, you can straighten the legs a little bit, work into the adductors, the inner thighs. You can stay here for a minute, or you can stay in happy baby, or all a bit too much, you can come back to feet on the mat and soles of the feet together. So whichever is your posture, just take it now. Now just a couple more breaths, whatever posture that you're in. Obviously the straight leg option is the deepest one. And then wherever you are, bring the knees together, feet are flat onto the mat, stretch the legs long, turn the palms up to the ceiling, Shavasana, just settle here, we're moving forward again in postures. It's not the end of the practice. It's just a posture for observing what's happening. Our next posture is Banasana. Your feet are together. Your arms up over your shoulders. Grab hold of those elbows with each hand. And then we're going to walk the elbows all the way to the right. So just keep walking until you have a really beautiful stretch on the left side of the body. So now we're going to make it a little bit more challenging by walking the legs to the right as well. The right leg walks and the left leg follows and they join. Now you'll notice that your left hip wants to lift up. Try and draw it back down so that we have a real lateral stretch. So if the left hip and buttock is lifting, reduce the posture a little bit until we can settle the left buttock down onto the mat. Now you have options here. You can cross one leg over the other, see which one is more challenging, and it may lock you also into position, but keep the left buttock down. Bring your awareness to your shoulders and make sure you have no tingling or burning or anything happening untoward in the shoulders. We can soften this posture in the shoulders if we want to by bringing one hand on top of the other on the forehead, and we can stay here. And if that's all a little bit too much, you can even bring your left hand down and stay here. So again, different bodies require different options. There's no judgment of ourselves, just observing what the body asks us to do today. And then we settle into that stillness. So this is a great little stretch for runners because we're right into the IT band down the left side of the body. Also into the intercostal muscles and the armpits as well if you have your elbows clasped. We have another 1.5 minutes, so if you want to just walk a little bit more into a deeper edge, find your edge, find your posture. A couple more breaths. So if you have your ankles crossed, uncross them. Walk the shoulders back to the center line. Walk the legs back to the center line. Hands down by the side of the body. We soften. Shavasana. Remember, you can always have your feet flat onto the mat if it feels a little bit too intense. And the left side of the body is waiting to do this same posture, but let's let it wait a little bit longer. And we move into the left now, so feet together, arms up over the shoulders, interlock those elbows, walk the elbows to the left. Settle here, right buttock down on the mat, walk the left leg to the left and follow it with the right. And just keep walking until you're in your Banasana, your right hip buttock comes down towards the mat. We settle here, and remember any issues with the pinching in those shoulders, hands on top of the forehead options, or right hand down by the side of the body. You'll lose a little bit of the stretch in that right side, but we don't want to be compressing any nerves in these shoulders. So again, without judgment, take your positions. And then if you want to, you can cross one ankle over the other. Helps to lock the legs into place. It doesn't matter which one it is. One's often a little bit more intense than the other, so see which one you like. And then we're now again into that right IT band, intercostals, armpits, if your hands are clasped, right buttock easing back to the mat. So it's a pure lateral stretch. So we ask a lot of our spines, and only when they decide to malfunction do we bring our attention to them. But we should be focused on how we are each day, how we're sat, if we're having to sit at a desk. Maybe have a little cushion behind that lower back if you're sat at a desk for long periods. My advice would be if you're at a desk for long periods of time, then maybe set your timer for every hour and stand up, have a little move around, a little stretch, and then settle back down again. The spine will be very grateful for you to do this. Also, we need to drink water. The spine requires water, lots of it, to hydrate. Okay, we've completed our 3 minutes, so unravel those legs if the ankles are crossed. We walk the shoulders back, we walk the legs back, and we settle down back into Shavasana. Remember, you can have your feet flat onto the mat if your spine is objecting to this. It's a very quiet practice. We have 2 more postures before we finish. So it will be a forward bend, flexion, and a twist to finish. So we've already taken the spine into extension and lateral stretches. So now we're coming into forward bend. So feet flat onto the mat, we'll softly roll over, and we'll find ourselves into a seated position. So again, to take our bolsters or our cushions, I would suggest for you all to sit on a cushion. So I would suggest you all sit on a cushion, because as we sit on the cushion, we lift up the spine a little bit more and we can flex forward a little bit more. The soles of the feet are together, and you have options. If you have a bolster and you don't want to do full flexion, you can just rest here. You can do this with cushions. You can make a bolster with 2 cushions inside of a pillowcase if you haven't got one. You can also place your cushions or your pillows over your feet, and we roll forward. Just rolling forward into flexion. Now the knees are bent, so it's not too intense on the spine. But if you feel it's a little bit too intense, then maybe have a straight back and just come up and just work into the hips. So we're just rolling forward, easing into the position. Nice, easy breathing. And bring your awareness to the sensations that are being created right now. Are you in your edge? As long as anything comes without pain, we know we're in the right position if we can feel something happening. Deep, dull, maybe achy. Just the knowledge that we're in this posture. Nice, easy breathing. the mind is wandering, bring it back to the moment. You want to be in the moment, in your yin. Finding those sensations, finding the breath, yielding to the posture. So slowly going to ease our way out of this posture. Now we have two options here. We can return to that posture for another minute or two, or we can work into the hamstrings a little bit if you want to. So if you're going with me, still be seated on something. Now have straight legs. And possibly the bolster or your cushions will be here, and we'll roll over. Now if the hamstrings are screaming at you for this position, then you can always take your cushions underneath the knees and then roll over. If you've got really back issues, then maybe this is the position for you. Have those knees nice and bent, which will not put too much stress on the spine. If you don't need the cushion, then we just roll forward. Remember, you can have your cushions or your bolsters in any position. So this is a full stretch along the spine, all along the back of the hamstrings. And we're also compressing the belly a little bit, working into the digestive system. The back issues, please don't go too deep into this unless your knees are bent and supported. And no back issues. Just yield until you feel your personal edge. And just see what happens for those who have not back issues if you draw your toes towards you, and how that intensifies this opening and stretch along the back of the body. And then very slowly we'll ease out of that posture, nice and easy. We're going to take the cushion or the bolster to the left of our mat, remove anything you may be seated on, and lay down on your backs. Feet flat onto the mat. I want you to do anything you want now, so feet flat onto the mat. So you may find that you want a little knee hug, or you may want to keep the feet flat and just windshield wiper the legs. So just do what feels organic to you. Just feel what makes you happy. Anything is fine. We're just really easing into that lower back before we take our final twist. And then with the bolster or your cushions to the left of your mat, there will be a couple of options. So the left leg is long on the mat. We draw the right knee into the chest, and we just simply drape that knee so the right buttock lifts off the mat. We draw the right shoulder down, and we open the arms. So this is option one. We're staying here for a couple of minutes. Option two would be knees over chest, and then take them to the left, with or without the bolster. So it's a little bit more of a twist in the spine, and we stay here. Of course, if you want to intensify it a little bit, you can always stretch the arms up over your head, and see how that changes the sensations. So lots of different options, again, for lots of different bodies. Arms wide, arms over the head, even hands down by the side of the body. You can have your left hand on top of the right knee and apply a little bit of weight. Just experimenting what makes it feel good for you. You can turn your head if you want to in any different directions. Just see what feels nice. And just a couple more breaths. And then slowly, whichever position you're in, bring the feet flat to the mat. Settle here. Either long legs or feet stay flat onto the mat. Shavasana again. And then we'll reach for that cushion or the bolster and we'll just slide it over to the right side of the mat. You may want to leave it here. First of all, if you have a bolster, the weight is quite nice to leave it here for a moment or two. And then flip it over to the right side of the mat. Your options again. Your right leg is long, you draw your left knee in and you drag it across so that you're in a really nice restorative twist. Stretch your arms away from you if you want to. Right hand can be on top of left knee. Or if you want to go a little bit deeper into that twist, knees over chest and then lift them up. Go a little bit higher in the twist, either with the bolster or with the floor. We settle here, arms in any position we want, up over the head if you want. Out to the side or right hand on top of left knee, just drawing that weight down a little bit more, just intensifying the twist. We're really working with the spine in all different movements, flexion, extension, lateral and rotation. When we do have a back issue, the worst thing you can do is lay down. You need to keep moving, very gently. So breathe into the spine. We're coming to the end of our practice. A lot of stagnant blood hangs around in that spine, so this practice is really freshening up that spine. We've practiced with awareness. And we're coming back to the center now, feet flat onto the mat. And again, anything organic that feels good to you, maybe separate the feet and have those windshield wipers. Or maybe knee hugs, maybe little circles with the knees, anything that feels appropriate to you. And then feet flat onto the mat, and we either stay here, beautiful posture, or long legs, your Shavasana, and settle here. Bring your hands to your bellies and just feel the breath moving the body. If you have back issues, I practice this practice for 3 days, very gently, and on the 3rd day my back felt completely back, out of sync, and back to normal. But I am now more cautious of my posture, either seated or standing. So the awareness of the yin on the mat and the sensations, take that awareness throughout your daily life. Look after your spine, it works very hard for you. So please stay here for at least another 5 minutes if you can. Just really calming everything down. Softening and releasing the spine, the shoulders soften, upper back softens, lower back softens, the legs soften and relax, and the arms are relaxed, and the hands, being aware of the belly rising and falling, the breath. Please stay here for as long as you require. Namaste.